Good afternoon guys, and welcome to Lisbon, Portugal. It's my first day here, and for the next 5 days I'm going to be exploring and creating around these beautiful streets. This is actually a place I've fancied visiting for a good while, and that is because of how vibrant the city is. Mix that in with the beautiful historical streets, friendly locals and a general relaxed atmosphere. You can quickly see why this place is a haven for street photographers. But of course, this is only what I've heard from other people. I am yet to experience any of this for myself. So I thought for my first day, I'd take a bit of a wander. I've got a plan of some of the areas that I want to visit, and I thought I'd bring you guys along with me, which might also be helpful for other people who are looking at coming to Lisbon to see some of the areas that are worth visiting. Plus, share with you the gear that I'm going to be using and my approach to street photography, which is rather interesting because it's a completely different approach to what I'm accustomed to. But more on that later. Let's get exploring. So I've made my way over to a neighbourhood called Alfama. This is the closest district to where I'm staying, and from my research this is one of Lisbon's oldest districts, and it is plentiful in character and charm. But not only that, we have trams. Look at that, how awesome is that? That's pretty cool. Now, anyone familiar with the channel will know I have a bit of a strange addiction of taking photos of trams, and I promise one day I will see someone about my strange addiction. But you'd have to admit, these things do look pretty cool, and when you see them going through the narrow streets of Lisbon, it is just an incredible sight, and I am going to apologise in advance for all the photographs I'm going to be getting of the trams in Lisbon. So I think now would be a good time to talk about the gear that I'm using on this trip, as well as the approach I'm taking with street photography, which is completely new, for me at least. Starting firstly with the approach, and that is simply avoiding the trap that I always find myself in no matter where I visit. I've done it in Budapest, I've done it in New York, I've done it in Sweden, I've done it in Spain, and that is simply carrying too much gear. Granted, it could be so tempting to get in the mindset of justifying to yourself you need to bring a certain bit of gear, only for it to end up sitting in your camera bag, not being used, and just dead weight you're lugging around for no reason. Which in turn, I notice makes me far less creative because I'm just worn out from carrying too much gear. So to combat this, I have brought with me a camera bag sling. Limiting what space I have in my camera bag has made me far more selective of the gear I need rather than the gear I want. And you know what? It's actually worked. I can actually say for once, I have a minimalistic camera bag setup. A first for yours truly. So what is in my camera bag, I hear you ask? Well, let's start with the camera itself, and to keep this a lightweight setup, I have gone with the smallest camera in my arsenal that packs the most amount of punch, and that is of course the Sony A6700. Yes, this little camera is going to be my go-to for both photo and video here in Lisbon. Interestingly, it's actually the first time I've ever gone abroad somewhere and just used an APS-C camera. I'm putting a lot of faith into this little camera, but it's so good. And to be sure we utilise all the power from the A6700, we are pairing this thing with some tremendous glass. I've brought 3 lenses in total, which I think is all I'll need for photographing Lisbon. So we've got the Sigma 10-18 f2.8, we've got the Sigma 30mm f1.4, and the Sigma 56mm f1.4. My ideology is the Sigma 10-18 will be my architectural establishing lens for open spaces and narrow streets, as well as taking the lead in being my main lens for vlogging. The 30mm is going to be my main lens. I think this is the lens that's going to be on the camera the most for photography, and I think it's going to capture the everyday moments of Lisbon brilliantly. And finally, the Sigma 56 f1.4 will be used for all the long narrow streets and detailed shots. And that is the beating heart of my camera bag setup. Now there are more things in this camera bag that I haven't mentioned, but we're not going to go through everything that's in my camera bag. That is not what this video is about. But if you are interested, I have linked everything that is in my camera bag down in the description below. So if you want to check any of it out for yourself, shops right there. So we're now in an area of the city called Baixa, and I have most likely butchered how you say that, but this is the centre of Lisbon. You can tell by how busy it is and how many tourists there are, myself included, but even still, I'm seeing some great opportunities for photography. There are reflections in windows, there is brilliant pockets of light with the narrow streets, and the narrow streets also feeding into great opportunities. Take photos of trams going through them. There is just so much to explore, and I was told to come to this centre area. I know what it's called, but I have no idea how to pronounce it, so it's on screen right now. But this is beautiful. Look at it, the colours, the architecture, everything right here is just breathtaking. And those columns right there, you might be able to see them in the background. I guarantee we'll be able to get some great shots of people walking through them. And that's another part of my approach when it comes to street photography in Lisbon, and that is to take my time. Often when I go to cities, I rush around. I try and tick as many locations off as possible, and I don't spend enough time in certain areas, and it means sometimes I miss a lot of opportunities when it comes to photography, and I've recognised that myself. So I thought for this trip I'll take my time. You know, if I want to wait 10-15 minutes for a photograph, even if it doesn't transpire, at least I've given it a chance, rather than what I used to do before, wait 2 minutes, rush off to the next area and then say whatever. I think this is going to be a good opportunity in Lisbon to try new approaches with street photography, push my own work a lot more, and implement new things, see what works, see what doesn't, and hopefully from that, when I get back to the UK, I'll have some more talking topics and different things to explore, ideas with tutorials and stuff, because for example, with this trip, I'm going to be sticking a lot with aperture priority for street photography, which is quite interesting because it's something I've been doing a lot more in 2024. To our next part of the city, we're going to jump on a tram, and yes, for once I'm actually going to be using a tram for its intended purpose. If you are coming to Lisbon, use Tram 28. For one, it's a fun way of getting around Lisbon, and on top of that, it's going to take you through all the areas that are worth exploring, including most of the ones that I'm mentioning in today's video. Just before we stop at a truly iconic photo spot in Lisbon, I need some refreshments. I've been walking around in the heat for the last 3 hours, and as a Brit, I am not used to it. Fortunately, there are a lot of lovely cafes in Lisbon, and I have been told to try the pastries. Cheers. This is going to sound very odd, because I'm a Brit, but I cannot stand tea or coffee. So, fresh juices, some water. I've got these real nice little pastry things. I've never had a pastry in Lisbon before, so I have no idea what is in these, so it's divine. Now that's got a really strong eggy taste. Both of them. Oh. You know, in the UK we have Greggs, and it's like one of the best pastry places. Well, this might top it, because I'd rather have this over a Greggs. I am glad I stopped for that bite to eat and a drink, because, well, Lisbon is rather hilly, but this is definitely the steepest part I have done so far. But I tell you what, the photo opportunity down here is going to be brilliant, because this is where the trams go up and down this elevated hill. And I tell you, this photo right here could be a good one, right? Got the buildings either side, you've got the sea in the background, and then you've just got the leading lines. Oh, this could be a class photograph. We've just got to get everything prepared, wait for the trams to set off, and then nail our shot. And after I've taken that photograph, I think I'm going to go into the back alleys a little bit, because every street I've explored so far offers something unique and really awesome, and I actually think the trams are about to go. They are. So it is now coming up to sunset. My first one here in Lisbon, and for my first one, I was a little bit conflicted of where I should watch it from. There was a viewing point that looked over the city, or do I come down to Belém? Well, I decided to come down to Belém because around here there are some incredible things to see. Starting, of course, with Belém Tower. This is something I really wanted to see on this trip. I tell you what, seeing it at sunset for the first time, it's pretty good. As mentioned, there are other areas worth exploring in this part of the city. Further down from Belém Tower, we have the breathtaking Monument to Discoveries. A little further down from that is the MAT, which is actually a museum of art, architecture and technology. You can honestly spend hours around this one area alone looking for unique photo opportunities at all time of day. This is one area of the city where you are going to switch up your lenses using everything from a wide lens to a telephoto. And from all of these places, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge in the background. It's actually not the Golden Gate Bridge, it's called the 25 April Bridge, but interestingly it is made by the same people. This part of Lisbon is a little bit further out than you'd expect. It takes about an hour to walk here, so you can grab an Uber or a bus to it, but my preferred method is jumping on an electric scooter. For one, it's a lot of fun and you can ride this all the way from the city centre to Belém Tower, so it's a great way of not missing out on any of the sights and seeing some great photo opportunities. So that right there is my first day exploring Lisbon, and it has been a fantastic photo walk, seeing some of the sights, getting a good lay of the land, and just experiencing some of the many things that Lisbon has to offer. I'm looking forward to my next 4 days exploring this amazing city, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's Star Wars video. I know it's slightly different, but maybe it's been insightful and a good guide for people who are thinking of visiting Lisbon, and if you are, definitely do it. But with all that said, guys, that is where I'm going to be leaving today's video. So until next time, create, explore and inspire.